So I've spent years trying numerous planning methods and have constantly tweaked and adjusted them as my commitments and seasons of life have changed. But recently I've dialed in this daily planning system that takes me about 10 minutes and has completely transformed how effectively I manage my time. A lot of people make plans but struggle to stick with them, which creates frustration and this feeling like you're always busy but never productive and never really moving the needle forward on the things that matter to you most. So in this video, I'll walk you through step by step my exact 10-minute daily planning system, everything from staying calibrated to my weekly and quarterly goals to narrowing my focus to the highest impact actions, time blocking my day on paper, and even how to handle those inevitable adjustments that we need to make when things don't go according to plan. Let's get into it. All right, step 0, planning philosophy and mindset. So before we can get into the actual process for how to plan our day, we need to decide when this planning is going to happen. And for me, I've always preferred to plan my day the night before. There's a number of reasons for this, but the main one is that when I wake up, I don't want to have to decide what I'm going to do that day. Although I usually get pretty good sleep, the early morning version of Miles is more likely to pick less ambitious things to do during the day, more likely to just want to sleep in and, not really give the day my all. Whereas if I've planned everything out the night before and I'm not given the power to make those choices first thing in the morning, then I will usually just go ahead and stick to my plan for the most part. One analogy that you could use to remember this is pilot versus passenger. So the night before, when you're doing your planning, you are the pilot of the plane. You're deciding the route that you're going to take, the destination that you're going, and the stops that you're going to make along the way. And you do that all the night before. Then when the next morning starts, you are simply the passenger. You don't have control over where the ship is going for the most part, and you are just along for the ride, executing on the plan that you decided the night before. So although the specifics of my daily planning process and the tools that I use have evolved and change over time depending on the projects that I'm working on at that moment or what I'm focusing on in that season of life, the timing for when that planning process happens has pretty much always been the night before. Now, another thing to keep in mind before we get into the specific steps is that you should not judge the success of your day based on whether or not you stick to that original plan that you set the night before. We'll talk more about how to handle schedule changes and what to do if something takes longer than expected, and then also how to judge the success of your day in steps 3 and 5. And honestly, I would go in with the expectation that most days you won't stick to your exact initial plan and that you will have to change things around, adjust course throughout the day. The key thing is that you do actually make those adjustments throughout the day. And once you get off track, you don't just, throw in the towel and let the rest of the day go to waste. Step 1, check digital calendar. So the first thing that I'll do is pull up my calendar app on usually my computer or my iPad, and I will identify any sort of fixed meetings, appointments, shared events, or commitments that I have scheduled for the next day. Now, the way I use my digital calendar has evolved a bit over time. In the past, I used to use it to block out very specific tasks at specific times. So like 9:30 to 10:45, write this memo for this project, whatever. But now I mainly use it to keep track of timed events, commitments, and meetings that involve other people or are for certain happening at a specific time, and then blocking out kind of the general framework or my overall daily routine at a high level. So for example, instead of writing out a specific task on my calendar, I would just create a general block. So instead of write memo at 9:30, I would just have maybe deep work block from 9:30 to 11. And at this point, I'm just checking to see if there are any time commitments, meetings, or appointments that I need to keep in mind when I make my actual daily plan on paper in step 4. Step 2, weekly calibration. So next, I will take a look at my weekly plan, which I established before the start of the entire week. So similar to how I plan the day the night before, I'll plan kind of the week at a high level the week before. So at the end of the previous week, usually for me, this is like Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon, or if I have a busy weekend, I might do this on Saturday morning or Friday afternoon. The point is you just do this planning for your entire week before the week starts. And my weekly plan is essentially just a game plan for that week, a list of tasks or things to keep in mind that I want to get done on that particular week. And so each week I'll pull things from this weekly plan to try and get done on a particular day. And this is where things can get interesting, because in this system, our day and our week don't just exist in a vacuum. Our actions today, our daily plan, contributes to our bigger weekly plan. And by completing our weekly plan, it contributes to our quarterly goals. And by completing our quarterly goals, it contributes to our overall life vision. The beauty of all of this is that on a daily basis, you don't need to think about all of that. You can just focus on one piece of the puzzle, your weekly plan, and then what actions from that weekly plan are you going to take today, so you don't get overwhelmed by the big picture. Now, if you want to implement a complete system that connects all of this together, everything from how to build that life vision to setting those quarterly goals and implementing systems into your life that you can actually stick to long term, I'm building something called Purposeful Productivity. It's basically everything I know about organizing your time, attention, and energy packaged together in one complete system that you can easily implement to build some real clarity, structure, and momentum in your life. Click the link in the description to sign up for the waitlist to be the first to know when it comes out. If any of this sort of big picture planning stuff resonates with you, I would definitely recommend checking it out. But now let's get back to the daily planning process. So at this point, we've checked our calendar to see if we have any timed meetings or commitments. We've also referenced our weekly plan to remind ourselves of our highest priorities for this week. Now comes the fun part, which is picking our one thing for tomorrow. Step 3, choose your one thing. This step is inspired by the book, The One Thing, but it's pretty simple. Basically, we want to take a look at our weekly plan, all these sort of tasks that we assigned for that week, and pick out one task that we think will have the highest positive impact on our life or our goals as a whole. Really think about it and narrow it down to just one thing. This might be hard for you to do, but if you just take like 2 minutes to really think about it, okay, if I had to pick one thing from this list of stuff that I could do, what is like the most important thing for me to actually do? And then in step 4, we're going to schedule this thing as early in the day as possible. If we can get this one thing done tomorrow, then I'd classify the day as a win, regardless of what else happens during the day. If we get off track and this is the only thing we do all day, if we get our one thing done, it is a successful day. Step 4, analog time blocking. All right, so this is where the fun happens. We're going to take everything that we did in steps 1 through 3 and create our actual plan for what we're specifically going to do tomorrow. And I like to do this on paper. I just have one of my notebooks here, and you can do this digitally, like on an iPad with a pencil if you want, or I used to do this on a digital calendar, but there are a number of reasons why I have been preferring paper and why I would suggest trying this out on paper if you have never done it. So let's get into it. Get my pen, and I've got a ruler here just because it helps. You don't need this, obviously, if you can draw straight lines or if you just don't really care about it being super neat. And I'll just make a couple columns here. Okay, so we've got a few different columns here. And now we just need to fill in the times on the left-hand side for when we're going to start and end our day. So I usually wake up around 6, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, depending on the day. And I like to make just each of these sort of lines be a 30-minute interval. So I'll just go ahead and number out the entire day like this. And I usually go to sleep by 10. Sometimes I won't really time block those evening hours because they're more relaxed, but we'll get into that in a bit. And then at this point, we're just going to create different blocks on here for the specific ways that we're going to be spending our time. Just how you might do on a digital calendar, but it's going to be on paper like this. So I'm just going to kind of create the example of what my plan was for today, because I haven't even thought about what I'm going to do tomorrow. But yeah, so normally I just have like my morning routine here. This is pretty cemented in my brain, so I'm not writing out the specific things of like feeding the cats, drinking water, going for a walk, sunlight. If you need to get more specific, you can. And this usually goes until like 6:45 for me. So I'm just going to draw a little line here. And honestly, I wouldn't worry about making this super neat or perfect. I think if you get too caught up in that, you're just not focusing on the right things. I find that just having these scrappy plans almost works better as long as I'm really connected with creating them. It makes me more committed to sticking to them throughout the day. And then today is a big filming day for me. It's Sunday, so I'm filming like 3 different videos today. So we're just gonna block out how my plan was for today, and I'm sticking to it pretty well so far, I won't lie. So film video 1, give myself like 2 hours to do that because I know it takes a while. Then I'll do a little break here, or really just breakfast, from 9 to 10. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe I'll zoom in if you need to. And then film video 2, another 2-hour block here. Obviously, this will all be different for you depending on what you're doing on a particular day. This just happens to be my plan for today. And we're doing a little lunch break here as well. And finally, film the third video. Video 3. So I blocked out these 3 2-hour blocks. And right now, what time is it? 2:52. So I'm coming up on the edge. I'm almost done with this video. Hopefully we stick to it. If not, that's okay. And then from 3 to 4, I'm going to just upload footage and send to editor. All right. And then 4:30, I'm just going to do a shutdown ritual. I'm having dinner with my family tonight, or my parents. And so that might take like an hour and a half. And then I think we're going for like an evening hike today. Hike. We'll have night routine. I don't really need to put the specifics because that's pretty cemented for me. And then read. I like to kind of just do that starting around 9 until I fall asleep. Lights out automatically at 10. And so this is kind of my initial plan. This is what I did yesterday. I've got my original one on another page here, but I just wanted to recreate it for this demonstration. And then what I would have also done before this, I forgot to kind of show you guys here, but I would have written the one thing. Maybe you can do this on the back or on another part of the page. And for today, it was film 3 videos. And I also might make just a couple little boxes to check off here. So I've already done 2 of the 3 videos, so I can kind of fill these in like that. And that's just a little extra satisfying. But I would establish this the night before. I would write out, the one thing for tomorrow. And then at the bottom, shut down, have a little checkbox here. And this is basically, you can see I scheduled a little shutdown ritual here at 4 p.m. This is where I basically do this whole process over again for the next day. And once I've done that, I would fill in that box. All right, so that's step 4. Our daily plan is complete. Our pilot work is done. Now we can go to sleep and wake up as the passenger and just do our thing tomorrow. Step 5, handling schedule changes. All right, so this plan looks pretty good in theory, but if you've ever planned literally anything, you know that plans usually don't go to plan, but we still want to make them because, what do they say? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But things will inevitably go off schedule. The key is that when they do, we adjust course as needed and don't just throw up our hands and give up for the rest of the day. We adjust our schedule to make the most of the remaining time. Now, going back to the pilot passenger analogy, let's imagine we're taking a flight from New York to LA. We plan out the route ahead of time, we take off. Let's say something happens and we run into some turbulence. Maybe we have a fuel leak, or I don't know, like a bird crashes into your engine or something. If you're a good pilot, you're not just going to give up and let the plane, hopefully not crash. You're going to make adjustments. You're going to, do an emergency landing if you need to. You're going to move around the storm clouds or change elevation or something like that. All right, so let's take a look at what handling some of these schedule changes might look like in practice. So maybe the first half of this day goes pretty well. We do our morning routine, film video 1, eat breakfast, and we film video 2. But halfway through, we run into some technical difficulties, or maybe our cat pees on our bed and we have to clean that up. That has actually happened to me before. And we end up going a little bit longer. What we can do is just go over to this next column and make sure that it reflects the reality of what happened. So we know that video 2 went longer, film video 2, and now everything's off a little bit. What we can either do is, let's say, we could just skip lunch and then resume with the rest of this plan here, but we probably don't want to do that. So what I'll do is honestly just put a big X here. And then as soon as I finish filming video 2, or maybe during my lunch break, I will just quickly block out the rest of the day and make those adjustments. So let's say it's 1 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I just filmed video 2. I definitely need a lunch break. I'm going to take a lunch break real quick at 1, and then I'm going to try and get back to video 3 at like 2 p.m. Film video 3, and that'll go to 4. And then from here, maybe we'll skip the uploading of the footage and I'll just do that tomorrow morning. Instead, we'll just do our weekly planning at 4, and then we'll continue with dinner, hike, night routine, read, sleep, etc. And then we can just go throughout the rest of our day following this new plan. And then let's say, again, something happens and video 3 takes longer than expected, or maybe we were late to getting started. And so video 3 really starts more at like 2:30, film vid 3, and ends up going to like 5. And then, we got to run to dinner still, because that's like a timed thing. We've told our parents that we're going to go have dinner with them. Still going to do the hike. But instead, before we start our night routine, we're just going to quickly do our weekly plan here. We're going to condense it to, just a quick 30 minutes weekly plan. Sorry for my bad handwriting. And then we'll continue with night routine and some reading in there. Still trying to sleep by 10. And so you can see we're really just rolling with the punches throughout the day. Now you do have to make some decisions, obviously, on the spot about like what you're going to move around and what you're going to sacrifice. In this case, I knew that my one thing for the day was to film these 3 videos. And so that's like the highest priority thing. So if something else needs to get bumped, that's okay. I can shorten that weekly planning session, or cut back on some of the reading, or move that, sending the footage to the editor to the next day, because the main priority for today is getting those 3 videos filmed. But what's really powerful here is that not only have we managed to, very quickly adjust our schedule throughout the day so that we make the most use of the time that we have remaining, even if things don't go to plan. But now, when we're maybe doing our weekly review or just looking at our plan from that day, we can see kind of a history of all the changes that we've made and where things have started to fall apart. So if I'm coming back and I'm looking at this filming day and I'm saying, okay, well, every time, I only blocked out 2 hours to film a video, but every single time it went over. So maybe in the future, when I'm going to film a YouTube video, I either need to make it so that my, batteries are all charged beforehand, or my cat doesn't pee on my bed, or maybe I just need to block out 2.5 hours to be safe. So as you continue to follow this planning system, you're going to get better and better at managing your time, knowing how long things take, and handling unexpected interruptions, figuring out what those interruptions might be so you can avoid them altogether. And you just don't get this type of feedback when you block things out on your digital calendar, because the moment you move a block, it disappears. Like, you don't have that history. And yes, it's easier to make things neat, and you can color code things. It can look prettier, but you're not going to get as much done, and you're not going to develop that skill of time management the same way that you can with writing out your plan like this. And as you can see, I'm not really worried about making this look super pretty. That's not the goal of planning, to make the most aesthetic perfectly symmetrical, neat handwriting daily plan. If that's what we're trying to achieve, we should just, go draw some art or something. The purpose of this is to, make the most of our time. So I'm not worrying about my handwriting. It's good enough for me to be able to read. You might not be able to read it, but throughout the day I can reference it. And when I look back and do kind of a more weekly review of how I spent my time throughout the week, I can see where things went wrong and make adjustments for future weeks. All right, so now you've got a daily planning system that's going to work really well. But the thing that you might struggle with still is actually making time for the important things in your life, especially if you're working a full-time job. You can plan out your day perfectly, but still not make any progress on your goals and just kind of end up managing your current situation in life more efficiently, which might be fine depending on, your situation in life. Maybe you're satisfied with how things are and you just want to kind of maintain it. But if you're like me and you have, bigger goals and a more ideal lifestyle that you want to build, then you're going to need more than just planning out your day. Click this video to learn some practical strategies that have helped me make time for my goals alongside my 9-to-5 job. As always, do something today that your future self would thank you for.